Introduce. I'm Glenn Gonzalez. I'll be giving you the training from Init, giving you the Connect card, familiarizing you with all the equipment that's on your vehicles, and we'll be doing service level 1 support training, which will give you just device swapping, but we'll go a little more detail, just give you a little bit more knowledge on the system, log in, what you're going to see on the screens. And Dave, do you want to start?
Sure, I'm David Brodick from Yuba Sutter up in Marysville.
And I'm James Stoffer, technicians for City Roseville on bus services.
Scott Rado with SafePod, project manager of the Connect card.
John Laverty from SAC RT.
Alan Turley, Folsom Stage Lane.
Adi Salazar with SafePod, I'm the project coordinator for Connect Card.
I'm Ken Gary. I'm a section manager for City of Folsom.
Kyle Kropp, Foster County Transit, Transportation Supervisor.
Darren Klink, Placer County Transit Senior Director.
Perfect.
Mike Wicks in the city.
For the second time. All right, so we're going to start with the just showing you the devices. First, we'll start with the Copilot PC. This is going to be your onboard computer. It's on every vehicle. This hosts the brain of everything. Communication link between your touch-its, your ProxMobile 2s, which is the main tap device. And this is where everything's going to come over via wirelessly to this unit. Then you have the backplane bracket that's going to store each vehicle. So we'll start going into exactly what you're going to see on each one of these units, how we're going to pull it out. Right now, what you guys are going to do if you have a problem with the device, it's going to be simply removing the device and putting a new device in. Just going to be doing level 1 support. We don't have the final way of exactly how it's going to work. I believe everything's going to go to RT. There's no format yet on that, but as far as the device, you'll take a known good device, put it in, swap it out. And today we'll go over how the devices work, how you're going to pull them in and out, and we'll do an on-vehicle training.
Does that mean each agency is going to get 1, 2, 3 extra ones in case it happens, or do we have
I believe RT is going to have all your spares. It's still a gray area exactly how the process is going to work. I mean, we have a process that RT sends us the equipment right now. It's our SMR form, but the way it's supposed to work, you guys remove it. I would assume you're going to have maybe a spare or two on site. That hasn't been finalized yet, but that is in the works before to see exactly how that process is going to work and what paperwork trail RT is going to require for you to exchange devices between them. So here on the Copilot, you're going to have a lot of knowledge inside of this document. This gives you everything about the document. On the front, you're going to have 2 USB ports. You're going to have your power indicator lights. One is your CPU status. One is the power status. The first thing that you're going to notice mainly on a vehicle, a lot of times with the Copilots, if it's not booting, you're going to really want to look at the first light. And on page 8, you're going to have the LED status. The most frequent thing you're going to see is the power status light is just going to constantly blink. You're going to have no other light blinking. That's an indication that there's no ignition. Either the ignition fuse is popped, bus doesn't have ignition for some reason on that. If it was an installation thing, 99% of the time it's caught during the commissioning. Sometimes the ignition's hooked up constant, and that you would notice that's always on. But if you see that it's not booting, you're going to look for a blinking LED, just the power status light. If it's a steady, constant flash, there's no ignition. Nothing wrong with the Copilot. You won't see any CPU status. And you'll see that quite often, where an ignition fuse pops or something, it happens. And that's one of the things they'll send it back, and it's actually the unit's good. And that's why we show the indication lights in the document. Your 2 USB ports, you can use mainly that's only done for your programming, for upgrading via USB stick. So when it comes in, you'll pop in the USB stick. We'll see this on the vehicle today. The USB stick will have an auto run. So all you do is plug it in, wait for the auto run to take off. It'll say system shutting down. Once it says shutting down, you're going to remove your stick, and now the unit's programmed. You can also use a keyboard, mouse, and a monitor through the VGA if you ever needed to get in. That's well beyond service level 1, but the capability is there to get into the windows, and you can look into the folders for the archives.
Okay, so now they're talking about, on the power status, they're talking about whether it's blinking with a short on time or a long on time. So now which one is saying that it doesn't have ignition?
It will be just a steady short on time. It'll just constantly be blinking, and that's the only one that'll be blinking is the power status. which might be
That's the one that's no ignition.
right, no ignition.
The normal thing is you'd have both those lights on solid.
Yeah, well, you'll see it's just like a computer, and that's what the CPU status, it'll constantly flash like your computer. When your computer's turned on, you have the CPU status light, and that lets you know that that's running. It would only be the power status. If that's just a steady, constant blink, and there's no other light, there's no ignition. The CPU is not starting.
So normally we have the blinking with the long on time.
With the long, and that's when it's up and running.
Right.
So if it's just the power status by itself, nothing else, then this actually be the CPU status.
Okay, okay.
So, and then now in the back you have a 96 pin connector, and this is going to seat into, you either have your Copilot bracket backplane, which has the connectors, we'll get into that, the interface. On most of your buses you have this bracket in a secured radio cabinet. It slides in. You'll have a P2, Phillips 2. Just secure them in. And these screws won't come out, so those are twisted in. Same thing, remove the screws. Grab it a little easier when it's mounted. Those will pull out. There's 2 guide levers here on each side that will show. It'll sit in, so you can't put it in backwards or anything. That's why they have the catch notch there, and that'll fit in. Every once in a while, if you really force it in, the pins will bend. Sometimes you'll get where your wireless LAN antenna here is not completely straight, or the cable is just cocked a little bit. I mean, this can get hit, knocked around, something goes in there. It's just a matter of guiding that straight, and then the equipment will go in. You will sometimes have the wireless LAN antenna inside. If it's forced in, that'll snap and it'll get pushed in. So if you have no data connectivity or wireless LAN connectivity, that's something you do want to check just to see, hey, this is it, and that's what you'd write up, antenna damaged. I'll pass these around so you guys can feel on me. And on the back, actually, it's good to know there's this part number and then your serial number. So you'll have the Copilot PC is your part number that you see is the top barcode, and the bottom one's the serial number. And the main numbers you need to know are the last 5, and that's lit up here because it'll ask you for a part number on your SMR request, and you would want to put the top number, which is the Copilot PC. And I got something that describes that for you.
Right there. Barcode, okay.
Yeah. So your top barcode is going to be the device name, which is code PC, and the unit, it's going to be the same thing on all your other devices. You're going to have the part number as your top barcode, serial number is the bottom barcode on that. Now the rack that goes in, it's going to have a wireless LAN antenna. If you ever have to replace the backplane, there's a snap ring. So when this is inserted into the device, yes. Oh yeah, sorry. This will be locked in. So you hear a snap when installers do that. This will have a zip tie on, cable tie on it that's securing it for strain relief. So if you ever have to replace a backplane, every once in a while you will get 1 or 2 where these do go bad. The thing with the backplane you got to remember, Copilots are hot swappable. You can take it from one vehicle to the next. Everything's stored on your backplane. So the vehicle number, all the settings, everything's in this backplane on the EEPROM chip. So which allows you to take it out hot from one bus to the next, or something from storage, you're allowed to just pop it in. So once it's plugged in, it knows it's the vehicle number. It downloads all the information over the wireless LAN to update it for that vehicle. So even if it's 2 different bus types, as soon as it's plugged in, it downloads over the wireless LAN any of the parameters, archives that it needs, and it's ready to go. But if you do have to replace this, you're going to need the specialty tool to remove the antenna. So this is going to slide in from the front side, so you'll remove the Copilot. Be very gentle. Once it's in, you're going to snap. It releases that snap ring, and this pulls out. So it's just putting compression around the snap ring. And you'll go through some of these tips. They are being ordered. SACOG will have all the specialty tools, and then it'll be distributed from that to get the tools. And then you can replace a unit, put it back in. You'll snap the wireless LAN antenna back in. Now the other end you'll have on our mobile mark, you'll have 2 antenna cables coming off your Mobile Mark tri-band antenna. So this has wireless LAN, GPS, and GSM. So you have a Fokker connector here. They just snap on. You're able to get it off. On the GPS module itself, you'll have 2 connectors that are plug and play, so you won't need a tool for the GPS, only for the wireless LAN. And then the other end of the wireless LAN, they all color code to the connector, black to black, blue to blue. That'll allow you. So if you have to replace your antenna, you're just going to release the latch and pull. You'll also have on the back plane, all the other connectors are Proviethia snap connects. So you'll look on each cable. This one is XST4. So it coordinates, everything's printed on the board. COM3, XST4. Line them up. They snap in. You want to make sure you have both snaps. To remove it, press both releases, pulls off. Snaps on, pulls off. Play with that, David. We try to, at installation as much as possible, put it so that each one is accessible either with the sliding out tray or where you can get to your finger. Some of them you're going to have to reach around. It's just there was no way to install it. You are going to have some vehicles that have the closed rack. It's the same unit. It's just in a closed box because there wasn't a radio cabinet or anything to put it to. So the cover will just come off and everything's accessible right there.
Glenda, will all these have a connection on them?
Yes, you're going to have.
Normal use, every one of these.
Actually, let's, if you want, let me go ahead and we'll wire it up exactly what you will see in a vehicle. So you'll have, you're going to have 2 XST11, XST12. This is actually a really important part of the unit. If you get one where the screen's not coming on and you replaced it, it's going to be, they're specific to it. One is for the ProxMobile 2, which is data only. The Touch It requires power over Ethernet, so you have power and data in the connection. So what happens if you have the XST11 and XST12 crossed, when you put it back together, and your touch mom won't start, most likely it's you got your data and the 2 cables mixed up, your XST11, XST12.
They're interchanged. By the label.
And they'll have the label on there. And one says power Ethernet, and then the other one also says power Prox, and data Prox.
He's from RT, and it's kind of new.
Okay, so you're going to have, you won't have the Copilot or the touch screen. So for RT, all you're going to worry about is ProxMobile 2. And what you do have, though, is you have the Ethernet Prox for data only, but that goes to an Ethernet switch. So you'll have a D-sub to RJ45 connection, which goes to the Ethernet switch that ties in to the MAR for the Clever Device system. So you'll have that's the GPS RS-232. So that's your interface that not only powers the GPS module, but also does the communication CAN over RS-232. Then you're going to have the Touch It cable, ProxMobile data cable, and then you're going to have your main harness, which is your Copilot criteria. This is a mate and lock 12 pole. You're not using all of them. This is going to have your power, your ground, and then future signals. Whether if it ever does go to an AVL or whatever, you're going to have the capability of doors, wheelchair, discrete signals like that. All we're grabbing is power, ground, ignition. Speaking of the power, all power, you're going to have 2 constants depending on the vehicle. All your fixed route buses are going to have a 24, 2 constant 24s, and a 12 or 24 ignition depending on the vehicle. And they will all, the way goes, as many vehicles as we could. We tried to put this directly at the power source. Sometimes it wasn't possible to get to the power source, so it's directly in the box, the closed rack, or right next to the unit. And they're just regular ATC fuses. You're going to have F1, constant power for the Copilot. F2, constant power for your ProxMobile 2, and then F3 is going to be the ignition, shared ignition on both for the ProxMobile and that's just a sense. It's not carrying any amps, it's milliamps on the ignition, but it's just a sense trigger to turn on, shut down, and go into hibernation. The way this works, you'll have a small screwdriver, you place it into the square hole, it opens the teeth and the cables pull in and out. This is your MDT, the Touch It mobile display terminal. It's what the drivers are going to see, log in with. So on top of this, you're going to have a M3 Allen key, 3mm Allen. As you see, there's teeth here. So what we're going to do is we're going to loosen it up. You're going to back the screw out. The teeth drop down. You can push down if you want as well. That'll drop. When you put this in, of course, make sure you're sub D9 to here. There's pins on there as well, so check your pins if you're having a problem with that. That line's in. It's a little easier on the buses, of course. You're going to just make sure the screen's on. Tighten it down. Teeth lock into the back.
This is standard 3mm, not,
Yeah.
not a tamper-proof.
Not a tamper-proof, nope. On the Prox, you'll have a T15, but on this is just a standard 3. And then on the back side, there's a 2.5mm. If you want to just take the back cover off, so you want to check your cabling on the back side, which all of these are Temzu brackets. All of these brackets are made in the factory, so they come pre-penned, which takes any 90% of the air out of installers pushing the pins in on those small wires. So you're able to disconnect just this and send it back, or you can replace just the whip cable. And you don't have to run it from the dash all the way back to where the harness is. You can just unplug this in the dash, run a new cable with the pins, or just a whole new bracket. The bracket is just mechanical, so there's nothing, no EEPROM or any other device in here. So the back screw you're going to pull. This cover will pop off. Yeah, sometimes they do. This will slide down. You can take this completely off. And then here on the back you can see. And if there is an issue, this is caught during the commissioning of the installation process, but sometimes you'll have your data crossed up, or you'll get them. Sometimes the pen will push out. If they push it in too hard, you lose data. That's something you want to check. Or over time, you'll get a pen that just loses its teeth, and we'll just unseat from the vibration. We try to eliminate all of it with the strain relief here. That's another reason we do that in the factory, so that it's a guaranteed good strain relief, and these don't wiggle as much as possible. And over this cable, you'll have your 2 powers, 2 grounds, and then your data, transmit, receive for the RJ45 Ethernet. Cover pops back on, set screw back in. And that unit is done. Bust the screen. And depending on how the brackets are mounted, they're either done, if it's a wood shelf, they'll be just typical wood screws in there, set in. Everything else we try to through bolt as much as possible. If not, it may have tack screws in there. Just depending on the application where it was put. It's either going to be a hex head screw, or it's going to be a P2, 10x32 with a nylock on the other side. That's how these are going to be mounted down to the base. Here's your ProxMobile 2. The only thing you're going to do with this is replace it off the unit. You can program it, which we'll get into with Power Updater when I show you that software program. The main thing you're going to have go wrong with this, as of that we've seen so far just in testing, you're either going to lose the sound when the tap card goes in, the screen's going to go dim or go out, and we're still just in the process of really just, it's not being used right now, so we're really not seeing any errors other than when we're testing. We've seen a couple where serial number was wrong, and that's something you would update in the power, or it's not connecting to the data server, which ended up being, some of it was installation, the pins weren't right. But all that, we've walked through the yard, so you shouldn't be seeing any of that come live time. But again, we won't know until it really goes live. Same concept as your Touch It. You have your teeth here, you have a set screw on the side. It's important to know on this will be locked like this. This only locks one way. So right now this would be screwed in. So to start the process, you're going to unlock first. It's a T15 on the outside. So you're going to back the bit out. You're going to press in. Screw it out, make sure it's unlocked. Press it in, the teeth release. Put it in, then do the process backwards. Screw it in. And the key will not let you take it out until it goes completely tight in. Once that's in, you turn, and then your key will release. Same process, take it apart. Turn the key. Back it out. Of course, it's a little easier when they're mounted in the vehicle, but now your bracket, if you do have to replace this, you're going to remove the ProxMobile, of course. You're going to have 4 T15 set screws here. And I would recommend only using hand tools on these. A lot of these are aluminum screws, and they will strip. Especially the side set screw here. So once your screws are removed, this will be, of course, mounted with pole clamps. This comes out. Same as your Copilot backplane, you have an EEPROM here. Stores all the information. It's also hot swappable for the unit, the ProxMobile 2. So you can go from device to device. The vehicle specifics are stored right in here. And then when we show Power Updater here in a bit, we'll see each agency has an agency code. Roseville's an 8, so your prefix to everything that you put in with the vehicle number will be an 8. It needs to be a 5-digit number. So if it's a, say, bus 247, it needs to be 80247.
Okay, so that part normally, you just swap that part.
That's it.
normally
This stays in. If you have to, if you do for some reason the EEPROM goes bad or whatever, you'll see it on here, bad EEPROM. Then you're going to need to replace this and just pull this unit off, and then that's where you'll depend with a. Grab that tool. Just a standard depenning tool for your D-subs. What you'll do on these, so it'll go around the cable, it's slotted on one side. You'll put that in, you twist a little bit depending on the cable, and the whole cable pulls out with it. That's not really service level 1, but if you are going to have to replace the backplane, you're going to need to remove the cable, because you don't want to remove just the EEPROM. Now what we'll do, set this up. And then we will go into the Power Updater of programming the Prox. In each one of the documents, you have a document for the Prox, for the Copilot, and for the GPS. It goes into a lot more depth than you need, but it gives you a complete overview of the product, the board. So first we'll start with that before we do the EEPROM. We're going to go into Power Updater. Whenever you're doing the Power Updater, you can do it when the units are on. It's just going to take twice as long for the system to boot or to talk to it. So you'll have this program, which we're trying to figure out how we're going to make sure everybody has access to a current version of this. We're going to work on either a SharePoint site or something where everybody can get to this program and use it with the most updated version. So it's Power Updater. I'm just going to simply open it. You're going to have a Power Updater cable. It's a magnetic RS-232 interface through USB. Very important that you, for your computer's sake, put in the connector first here. So it'll let you know if it's not right. It's cockeyed like that, so you can just twist it until it snaps in. Once you plug this in, because it is power over the USB, most of the time you're working on this on a vehicle, there's metal parts everywhere. It will short out your USB hub because it now becomes live when you plug it in. So once it's in, it's going to start talking to the product. It'll ask you if you need to format. You just hit cancel. It usually comes up once or twice. If there's an error, you'll see on the Power Updater reference sheet here, which we're on Power Updater. And on the back, that shows you how the cable goes in for the... You're going to have, like RTC earlier today was off, but let's go ahead and I'm going to start programming this. And I'm going to delete it real quick so it errors.
Hey Glenn, when you said that everybody's going to get access to this program, does that mean each agency is going to have a copy of this, or is this going to be live over the...
No, everybody can get a copy. We're just trying to figure out one location where to put it because you guys don't have access to the VPN to download if we update a version. So we'd like to have where everybody can get to the most current version. Well, you can have the copy that we have now. But when it comes time to roll out or whatever, if we have a version change, we need to have it where everybody can get the newer version and put it into the project folder. Because right now it's version 1.03, so if we end up at go live, it's 1.8. We want everybody to have most of it can be done wireless, but if you do have to update it, we want to make sure everybody has a spot where we can get to the program.
So we can put it on the collaboration side.
I don't know if we're gonna have that.
How long that's going to be up, yeah.
Okay, so we gotta figure.
Yeah. So now as you see, I started programming. You can't do anything wrong on this really, which is really nice with Power Updater. It's just a matter of reflashing the SD card. So now we have a red circle, which is an error. So what you want to do, you're going to come into Power Updater. You're going to go to SD card 1 where we have the error. You're going to right click. And you can either update all inside ProxMobile. I like to choose both cards, has the versions there. Or you can come down to Program SD card 1. And this is what I was talking about with the versions. This is where you want to, if the version's updated, this is where it has to go into that folder. And that's why we would want to have a site where everybody can get to that one folder. And then we just wait for the process to complete. And while that's programming, we can look at the vehicle EEPROM. This is where your vehicle address is programmed into the actual EEPROM, the base part. So it's as simple as clicking in. I gotta wait for the program to finish writing.
So you said earlier that this actually is better if the vehicle's off.
Yes, if you have the power off, you can have the vehicle on if you want. Just pull the fuse for this, but if you have this unit off, it works a lot faster because the CPU is not running. So we're still going to have an error here, but it'll take 15 minutes to program. So now we're going to go to vehicle EEPROM. You read it. And once it's changed, you want to make sure that the mounting plate on this is a 1. The co-pilot, we'll see on the vehicle, we'll go how to program a vehicle number, and we'll do that in live mode. This is a 3, and that's because they're independent. You have 2 Ethernet ports on the backplane, the 11 and 12, so they have unique IP identifications. So it knows that that's the ProxMobile 2, that's the co-pilot PC. So it'll have 1. I keep this on Notepad, so if for any reason it ever gets screwed up, just copy from your Notepad, and you can paste it right in here. So we can actually just delete all this. I keep mine on my desktop in here. I have my ProxMobile copy and paste. And then all you'll do is copy it, bring it into your pad here. You can either Control V to paste or right click and paste. And then we're going to hit write. So now that's programmed. you could do just delete, read it, and it'll bring it back up to make sure that is programmed. Then the other option, if you have anything in here, you can always just right click if the serial number is wrong, or if you just want to make sure everything's good, even if it has a check mark, you can just update all inside the ProxMobile, and it'll start its process, and it'll go through everything to make sure it's the most current version that you have. Because sometimes it'll have a check mark that it's good, but it's not the current version. But it is a running version that's fine and acceptable. If it's not acceptable, it'll come up and say, hey, no, this is a pick that's too far out of date, and you'll get the red circle.
How often do you guys update?
It really depends. It's like Windows. If there's bugs found or whatever in testing, you really won't know until it's live. But typically, you don't have a lot of software updates. You're going to get more over the wireless LAN. You're going to get more tariff archives, Z archives, and that's more for the driver interface as far as software. Just depends. Or if there's something added, more GUI buttons and all that, then that's pushed out to that. Any questions? All right. What we will do here now is take like a 15-20 minute break. James, can we get the vehicle pulled around? We'll do the on vehicle.
Sure. You want to do it out here? I think most people are parked. Where's most everybody parked?
Out front? Yeah, so bring it around front. Okay, awesome.
Anywhere else.
No problem. I'll be there right now.
Thank you, James.
I think that one's a plastic. Yeah, they probably just laminated it. But yeah, yeah, we need that.
The newer vehicles, you're going to have the your Copilot PC bracket. This is a GPS module. So this is the only device that is not hot swappable. So if you are ever going to replace a GPS, what I would recommend doing is release your screws on the front of the Copilot. And they won't back all the way out. There's a catch on there, so you can get them out from the backside if you push them. If you ever strip that out, and you can get just the screw on that. They can be pushed out, but for the most part, you can keep spinning it. I just pull this, and what you want to do is on the top. There's a snap ring. You push on that, and then it'll get you to the D sub. You're going to grab both ends of the D sub, release that, unscrew it from the base, put it back in. Now that all the D subs, they'll have a high side, the low side. This is sub D9, so you're going to have 5 up top, 4 on the bottom. Just going to line it back up. Power it in. And then we snap that on. So, and then you're going to replace this, put it in, push it in, and as you can see here, here's the wireless LAN that I was talking about on the actual antenna coming in. So you want to look sometimes if it's forced in, or if you find that's tough, one of those pins might just, the teeth might come down a little bit on that, or this is just off a little bit. So what you'd want to do is grab it back in the back, just kind of straighten it out a little bit, and then just slide in. You definitely don't want to force it in, and then it'll snap in nice and snug. You're going to do this, tighten it in. They do get a little stripped out. You do have the groove, so you can use a larger slotted, and it'll give you a secondary to get that screw out without fighting on it. So because you can tell there's not a lot of room to get pliers around there, but you can. Now what I will show you, so here's our power status. Like right now, the bus is off. So the CPU is still running, but if it was to have, actually this is an easier way to do it. Excuse me, I'm gonna pull the power real quick. Now I'm just gonna pull. Okay, now the power's constant's off. Now what I'm gonna do is pull the ignition. So now the ignition's out. So say your ignition popped for some reason. This will be the status light that we talked about.
Just blink.
It's just a constant, steady, low light blink.
Got it.
So you won't see a CPU come on or anything. So now the difference is we have, and you'll see that every once in a while, but that'll, let me just first indicator, okay, it's not the unit itself. Check power on that. There's 2 places you can lose power. It's going to be at the source there where the fuse is, or on the your 12-pole mate and lock. So the installers have made their end that have the signal cables where you have the power. And what we've done is we've also ran extra cables. There's door, wheelchair odometer that are spares in there. So if you ever do advance or add something else to the Copilot feature, ABL or whatever, there's cables already ran there into the criteria. So if it's not there, it's either up there, and it's just a direct link from there to the Wago. Now once it senses ignition, numbers and only one's going to work. There's a conflict. So if this one, and then you have the mounting plate, which ProxMobile is a 1, Copilot's a 3, and we'll see that once that boots up. You have the firmware version, which is the version that we changed with that SD card 1, SD card 2. That's a 6.12. The Prox version, the PIC version, and then the main ones that change are your tariff and your parameters, and that's set up with a date and the version. And then the Z archive is your Z70. It shows your ignition on, off. You can test your ignition here as well. And there's also the power voltage of the vehicle. When it's off or running or whatever, it gives you power voltage. Next one is just RAM inside. That's nothing you need to worry about. The third screen is the IP address of the device. The MAC address. ISI is the connection between the Copilot and the device. So if it wasn't talking, it would say not connected. It would be in red. Data server is important. Here, this side doesn't have any of the wireless access points. But we know this talked at today's date at 10:25 this morning, so it transferred data. So we know it was in range. It did get it at some point. It gives you a point of when the last data transfer was to the server. And the ping up top is for the ping between the Copilot and here. That has nothing to do with the data server. Data server have its own IP address and will stay connected once you're in wireless LAN access point range on your buildings. And that's going to transfer any new file software, any data from the bus when they pull back in off route. And if that data transfer stops for any reason or it goes out of wireless, it'll pick back up the next time it does see and complete sending the rest of the file. Now when you get to the last screen, you want to start USB update, you don't want to go again. That's for if you don't have the computer with Power Updater. It's for a serial to female USB, and you can update it via USB stick instead of using the computer. If you do go too far, you just have to wait till it times out and power's off, and then it'll be back up and come back to the regular screen.
What's the timeout?
It's quicker to throw the knife switch. Probably like 15 minutes because it's just going to keep searching for a USB stick.
Okay, so just...
Yeah, it does just knife the bus and then turn it back on or pull the fuse.
Alright.
So it's not going to hurt anything. And always check your date and time on the top screen. Now what we'll do is, you want to open that window, Scott, and I'll show you what screen you see when we log in. Yeah. So Scott, you want to probably get from there. I'm just going to talk from out here. So when your drivers log in, they're going to have their driver number, of course. There's going to be a route. I don't know if maintenance is going to have a maintenance number or do you just have one unit, one code you can use. Each agency is going to be different. I don't know how that's set up for them.
We have a separate number for maintenance.
For maintenance, okay. And here it just happens to be 77 as a driver. Route 1, run 1. Once you hit OK. So now it went from out of service to tap on. So now that screen talks to that. Now when you're troubleshooting, there's the commissioning sheet that's in your thing that tells you exactly what test function to use or everything. But what we can do is you can go to the menu, which is a nice feature. You come to system information. In the system information, it's going to give you the vehicle ID number that's programmed on the Copilot, which needs to match the ProxMobile as well. The vehicle device ID, which is 26700. The mounting plate, so the Copilot set to 3. Your firmware version, which is on the USB stick, that's the 5.93. And this will be able to be updated. It's a current version now where they can update the firmware over the wireless LAN for the Copilot so that it can be pushed out. When you're in wireless LAN range, you'll have wireless LAN. It gives you 11 satellites. And we're connected to the ProxMobile and the status is okay. So we know we're talking back and forth. So now when we're on here, they can change to reduce fare. So now tap on reduce fare. That screen will change to the reduce fare. You can do a Roseville reduced single fare, 75 cents. So the driver also sees what comes up on that screen and their view. So this is basically just a smaller window of the Now if we do a read only, and she puts a card on, it'll give the passenger a lot of information, but it'll give the driver the information they need. The last time they tapped on, how good the tap's valid through, and actually how much they have left on the purse on the card. So if somebody really can't see that screen, they wanted to know, the driver can, without having to turn over their shoulder, they can read everything from the screen. You can do reduced day pass. I think day pass wasn't working earlier, but already tapped on. So there's a timeout, so you can't just keep tapping it. You can reversal. Single phone refund, 75 cents. You can do additional ride or reduced fare or full fare. Now, when you come into your test functions, there's going to be the menu test function. It's on the commissioning sheet, but it's going to be your username is 200 077. Password's going to be 9999, and of course this is all laid out step by step in that sheet. So if you don't have the sheet or whatever, and you remember your username and logger, the nice feature with our system is you hit the 3 dots. There we go. It has every test function that's available in a drop-down menu. So say we want to set the vehicle code number. So it's going to bring up the test function that you need, which is the 10106. So say the vehicle number was programmed wrong. So we're going to hit OK. So agency code 80, and then you would just put 417. And then you're going to hit OK. Make sure the mounting plate is 3 for the co-pilot. OK. And then it's saved. So another nice feature is the 501, which you'll use a lot, 50101, because these do get beat up and something's going to happen. That's the calibration of the screen. You want to calibrate, you hit OK. Runs through its calibration, and then it's done. Nothing that you guys would use, but you have the option for night panel, day panel. You can change the login. Then you want to log off when you're done. Make sure everything logs off when you get done with the maintenance. It will eventually time out, and they can also do that. It's set in the program, so once it shuts off, it's going to automatically log off, but somebody can log in over that. So we have a data version, which will give you, if somebody says, hey, we need to check the Z archive, if you can't see on the maintenance card, you can scroll through and have all your archives that's loaded onto the vehicle. Your parameter, which is a PCO file. You have your tariff, TCO, and then your Z archives.
You want to show them how they can tell if it's a current Z archive?
Yes. You got your tap there? Be easier for them to see it on that. Okay, so this is, you're on that?
Tell the Z archive is current when you look at the time right there. So this is the date. So the year, the month, the day, and then the time. So it says 10:15. So that was the last time that this was updated, and they update every hour. So this one is not current. But the next update should come at
1:15. 3:15. Yeah.
And it'll show it'll show
3:15. Yeah. Yeah, because it missed the 2:15. So,
Yeah.
which is the last data transfer was 10:15. So that makes sense on this when it was to the server. And that's important because that would also tell you it's not talking to the central side. So you would want to check the wireless LAN and why you don't have connection to the data server. Any other questions or? I know it's a lot at once. I mean, it's in there. Once you start playing with it, and now what we do is just whoever wants to grab the screwdrivers, pull out your devices. I'll put a key in the ProxMobile. You guys can start taking the devices off if you want to.
Just put your number on speed dial.
That's right.
Hey, how far is the on
The hard drive's full, but hopefully you'd catch that before. Somebody's gonna be like, "Hey, I haven't seen reporting in a week." So.
Well, I think RT's going to keep all our reports, right? I think that's what the very first time. That's what we talked about was RT was going to keep all our information.
Okay.
So I don't know if it actually downloads to us and then them, or just straight to them.
It's probably through them. If you guys are sharing the server with them, then they probably have the mobile IC monitoring that. Which it will come up with an alarm too. Hey, this vehicle, it'll send a code out. Hey, this vehicle is not reported in so many hours or days or whatever. So.
Okay, yeah.
So no matter what USB port you use, you're just going to wait. Sometimes they're real finicky. Take anywhere from 5 to 20 seconds. Okay, so now we're going to have activity. Now what you want to do is look on this screen, on the touch it screen, and it'll. It's nice. It's an auto run feature. So it'll either tell you that it's it started to load too fast. Now it's executing the USB auto run. That's the program that's on the stick. And I usually like to use a USB with the light. You'll start seeing now it's doing data flash, so you know that it's going through. And then once the program completely takes, it's going to go through a shutdown sequence automatically for you. And once you start seeing the DOS screens and the background screen, so USB successful, system reboot, then you'll start seeing Windows in the background. You just want to pull the stick out. If you leave the stick in, all it's going to do, it's going to try to boot from the stick. Windows won't boot. So you're going to have your power light, CPU light. So your power status, you can tell, is lit up bright. CPU is the computer status. Here's our 2 USB ports. And when we do the programming, USB port can go into either USB. Once the stick's in, you'll give it anywhere from 5 to 20 seconds before it initiates the auto run. Now we're starting, and now you want to look at the screen. Come up with an auto run, execute USB auto run. There's your auto run. Once the auto run completes, it'll go to a shutdown sequence. Once you have the shutdown, once you start seeing the Windows DOS windows, pull your USB stick. And if you don't pull the USB stick, it's okay. You just have to restart it. It'll try to boot Windows from the stick. So just re-pull the stick and restart the Copilot. And depending on how old the software is, it can take anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes for it to reboot.